Okay, so hello and welcome to episode 5 of Armchair Judges, the podcast where we look back at controversial decisions in boxing and MMA and see if they hold up or whether they are as bad as people say. I'm Ben, joined today by Trevor.
Howdy.
And Aidan.
How you going?
How are we?
Yeah, good.
Good. So today we are looking at the first Roy Jones Jr. Antonio Tarver fight. This is 8th of November 2003. Again, from Las Vegas. Pretty much every fight we've done has been in Vegas, I think.
Yeah.
Except for one, I think, which might have been in Texas or something.
Okay. Yeah, Golovkin, Canelo, I think that.
Pretty sure that was in
Texas. Oh, no.
I think that was in Vegas.
Yeah. No.
Which one wouldn't have been in Texas? Light heavyweight titles, WBC, WA. Did I miss something here? Is Jones challenging for these titles?
Yeah, so I was looking it up. Jones has the IBO title, obviously
He's got the
minor
lineal,
title,
yeah.
and the ring light heavyweight title actually doesn't have the lineal title. So Tarver has the WBC title. He also vacated the WBA title because he'd been challenging Jones. He didn't think he'd be able to... Oh, sorry. It was for the vacant WBA title. Tarver vacated his IBF title, anticipating he wouldn't be able to make it to his mandatory defence.
Yes.
Now, the lineal champion at this time...
That German dude?
Had been that German dude, Darius Mikulchevsky.
Yeah.
But he had just lost the WBO title to Julio Cesar Gonzalez.
Okay. Yeah, there's a few interesting narratives here. Jones is going back down from heavyweight.
Yeah.
He's lost, let's say, 25 pounds of muscle.
Think about that, sorry. I was just looking at the screen while the computer's recording that car going past.
You bastard.
Somebody close the window?
Nah, it's fine.
Professional.
Yeah, he'd lost shitloads. I think he weighed in at 193 for his heavyweight fight, which is 88 kilos. Now it was 20 pounds over the light heavyweight limit.
Yeah, so it's not ideal. We found this fight on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm guessing we watched the same stream.
I think we did. And
Yeah,
I think we probably addressed that right.
So
Catch the
I watched it on I'm sure, a really unbiased channel, which I think we all did.
Yeah.
Antonio Tarver sucks. It's like this guy is just the biggest Roy Jones Jr. fan in the world.
He is pound for pound the greatest rapper in boxing.
He can't be stopped.
He's still rapping.
Records here. Roy Jones Jr. is fucking 48-1 with 38 knockouts. Unreal.
And the only loss was that DQ, which we probably need to make a stoppage review of.
And Tarver is 21-1, 17 knockouts. They're both around the same age. I'm pretty sure they're the same age. I think they're 34, 35 here. It's kind of crazy, the difference in experience.
Do you know, I'm looking at the tail of the tape and I've got no age for him. I've got everything else.
I'm sure they were about 34, man. I'm sure.
So there was one sort of interesting thing coming into this fight. So Jones' only loss was to Montel Griffin. Tarver's last win was a UD over Montel Griffin.
Yeah.
At this point, Jones clearly had the better record. He was a 4-division champion at that point. Clearly number one pound for pound.
Yeah. Jones looked invincible pretty much before this. Like, he was unreal.
Catch up a bit with the commentators though, saying that the fight he really wanted at heavyweight was Mike Tyson.
It was Mike Tyson.
Whoa, did you know? Right. I know I should save this for at the end, or I would say now. He turned down like $40 million to fight Tyson at heavyweight.
Really?
Wow.
Super winnable fight for him at this point, I reckon. Tyson's not quite as shot as he would get a few years later, but super winnable for Jones. He decided to go back down to heavyweight and fight. In hindsight, like the worst decision ever.
Surprising he didn't go to cruiserweight at that point. I don't think he went to cruiserweight for a lot of years.
No, he fought like later at cruiserweight, but cruiserweight was always looked at as kind of like a nothing division.
It was definitely necessary, though. Like, there's
Yeah,
guys like Jerry Quarry who just couldn't compete as
100%.
heavyweights.
I actually like cruiserweight as a division. It's the only one of the new divisions I think is good. I think the rest of them are rubbish and they should go.
Yeah. Well, it is a full division. It's got like 25 pounds.
Yeah.
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 This is a HBO fight, obviously. Jones was always, Ronelli always on HBO. So here we got commentary, Kellerman, Big George.
I don't think. Was it Kellerman?
Was it Lampley?
Yeah, definitely had Lampley.
Lampley.
We
Big
have a
George.
few points about Lampley in this one.
We got Larry back, which is good because he immediately starts talking about the Incredible Hulk for some reason.
Cocaine's out of the
Yeah, fuck. Did you have anything about odds and purses for this?
Didn't have anything about that. I got the referees, Kenny Bayliss.
Yeah.
Judges are Glenn Marta, David Harris and Jerry Roth.
Alright, so shall we kick into the fight?
Should go biases first.
Oh yes, biases. I probably like Jones Jr. more, but I don't think I have a great deal of bias here.
Yeah, I really think I don't. I like both of them.
Yeah.
At times I've liked seeing both of them lose depending on who they were fighting. But
Yeah.
I think it's sort of in between.
I'll say this is my first time watching this fight in full. I've seen clips in Roy Jones highlights and stuff. I actually don't think I have too many biases in this one. I don't really know either guy too well.
This is my first time watching this fight as well, actually.
Yeah.
It's a kind of well-known and hotly debated fight in boxing online circles.
Whether it lives up to that, then we'll see.
Yes, we are, of course, the final authority on the subject.
On all subjects. Yep.
We are omniscient, omnipotent.
The hive mind. So we get into the fight.
Yep.
So kind of starts off as most fights do. There's a bit of a feeling out process. And one of the first things you'll notice in this fight and any Jones fight is he has the fastest hands for a heavyweight fighter that you'll ever see. Ever. Especially those like short little hooks that he throws. Insanely fast.
At the start, while it starts really quiet, Tarver's super effective. Obviously Jones needs to close a lot of distance to come in, and Tarver's just hitting him every time he's coming in right at the start. They mentioned Jones's game plan is to hit the body a lot because Tarver's taller.
He
does definitely come into play. He definitely used his game plan.
He does a nice body shot in this round, and then the video froze.
Yes.
For me.
The video
Yeah, we lost about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an issue with that YouTube channel we're watching on.
From this moment, this is when all the sound and visual delay started as well.
The delay becomes a bit jarring.
But I don't think we missed a lot. 15 seconds, there wasn't a great deal. And I think I've got rough durations written down for each time the coverage pauses.
Well, you were more prepared than I.
No. I totally didn't do this on the fly at all.
And then Tarver does the flurry at the end of the round, which becomes a bit of a theme during this fight.
Yeah.
I thought that one was one of the rounds that could be tougher to score just because of the low activity.
Yeah. It's kind of your typical first round.
Yeah, your first round feeling out, but they're always hard to score, and my instinct is usually go, 10-10.
Yeah.
Which
I'm not afraid to give an even round, man. And you shouldn't be, I don't think. I think you should.
I find it easier in boxing than in MMA for some reason. To score things 10-10. Sorry, my phone.
Yeah.
Someone's calling me. I'll deal with it later.
Ma!
Get off the dang roof!
I just wanted, before we get into round two, I wanted to give a shout out to Buddy McGirt in Tarver's corner. He's pretty gold throughout this. He's just mad the whole time. He's just yelling and shit. It's funny. Eh?
I thought the corner advice from both of them throughout this whole fight was pretty on point with what we were saying. There were some of the, I don't know, so much we hear just useless shit from people's corners.
Yeah.
This time they were to the point. Everything was useful.
I couldn't concentrate on what was being said because I was fucking laughing at Tarver's trainer, man.
Oh my god. The world's most animated trainer.
He was fucking angry. In the first round, he's mad, and Tarver done pretty well.
He had a good point there, though. You're walking straight towards his right hand.
Yeah.
And Jones's corner, he's sitting back, so you got to get your jab working. And they said they had a good point to him. It's the first round, just let it go.
Yeah.
And we also saw that there was a bit of a headbutt in the first round from Tarver.
Yeah. Well, are we going to get a domestic caught on audio.
Maybe.
Fuck, I love Queen Bee. Round 2. I was starting to think around here that Jones looks a little kind of weary of Tarver's power.
Yep.
And he throws these kind of like wild kind of hooks Jones does sometimes. He gets like way off balance. And I think that's something we should touch on at the end. The boxing style of Jones is so weird.
But I think on the opposite sort of point of it, any boxers who fight tall should probably watch this and see what Tarver's doing in the rounds that he is doing really well.
Yeah.
Like he's like so many people have trouble with that style of being a taller outside fighter and moving forwards, which he does really well. They have trouble when they're not moving their heads a lot, which Tarver does a bit, but his defence is mostly just stepping back.
Yeah.
But we've seen a lot of like outside fighters like Holly Holm is probably the classic example of someone who can't fight moving forwards.
Yeah.
Anyone who fights on the outside should watch what Tarver does here, I think.
Yeah. And there's more kind of these kind of Tarver flurries towards the end of the round. Jones comes back to it, but then I think Tarver still does the better work in that round.
There's an interesting statistic that came up at one point, and against southpaws, like it can't have been completely right. It can't be only at light heavyweight, but I was saying against southpaws, Jones has won 173 of 186 rounds coming into this.
That is fucking insane.
And I thought the better bodywork in that round actually came from Tarver, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round 3 kind of starts off a little slow again. Jones starts to open up a bit more in this round, especially with the body shots. But
this is where I start to see a bit of a shift in the fight.
100%.
Not to foreshadow too much, but
Yeah.
never mind.
There's not a great deal on what Jones is throwing, but he's throwing them and he's countering heaps and opening up more. And this is where the kind of video being out of sync really started
to get jarring, yeah.
Because it's like you hear the whoosh whoosh, and then 10 seconds later, like you see someone get punched.
Both dudes have like spectacular jabs, so
Yeah.
I know I keep saying this, but and I'm probably it's probably like a bit of a redundant point because we're always watching world championship fights and shit. Everyone's going to have a pretty good jab, but
Kind of a prerequisite.
yeah, but especially Jones, so quick.
Yeah, he's got that weird from the hip kind of jab, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he's throwing to the body, he is throwing heavy too.
Yeah.
Some of the absolutely heaviest punches.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot to round 3 other than that.
No, there wasn't. I did
There
make
was
a
a
note.
momentum swing, I thought.
Yeah, there's a momentum swing, and this is where it started to get to a point where Tarver was really getting him on the ropes and just failing to capitalise.
This becomes a big theme throughout the fight. I think.
I think this is probably the biggest theme of the fight. It's
Very, yeah.
he started to at certain points just look off, like something.
I think he was kind of in awe of Jones.
Maybe because there's just certain points where you're like, he really should have capitalised there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something that will be touched on at the end, like the big strategy errors that are made here.
He had all the tools to beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Round 4. Letterman thinks Tarver is too greasy.
So, I had a bit of a point about Letterman, like when I first saw his scorecard show up and said, I haven't scored the same as him. This is really concerning.
Yeah.
But I almost think after he makes the point that he's too greasy, like, he gets real biased against him. And he
But
thought
why-
Tarver's doing well, he just fucking ignores it.
Why is he bothered that he's greasy?
Yeah. And
Is he worried like his punches are going to slide off him? Or
yeah, well, there shouldn't be as much of an issue in MMA as there in boxing as there is.
Yeah,
for
I'm
just saying,
when
like,
someone's crazy. Yeah.
Bald guy plus sweat equals shiny greasy guy.
Yeah.
And probably got like head wax on as well. You know that
Yeah.
make himself look like a bowling ball.
I just thought that was very weird that he would point that out. It was a
Yeah.
bit like the beard. in
I
the
think he
last
was
episode.
concerned that he was just lubed up too much with Vaseline.
So that's surely more of an issue for him. It means there's going to be more shit on Jones's gloves when he's hitting him.
Yeah.
Actually getting into his
100%.
eyes.
Definitely.
Funnily enough, I thought Drunk Larry made a really insightful point here, which ended up being really true. Said Jones's weight cut might prove costly going into championship rounds.
Yeah.
It was just after there'd been that momentum swing and
Yeah.
everyone else was talking about how great Jones was doing. And Larry's the only one
I'm pretty
going,
sure,
this could
like,
be a big issue for him later.
Us agreeing with Larry Merchant, or like Larry Merchant making sense, is one of the foretelling signs of the coming apocalypse.
Or that we should stop drinking.
Or that we should keep drinking.
I don't know how you guys go about scoring the fights. when I do this, I'll watch it on mute, I'll score, then I'll watch it with commentary, and then I'll add in any kind of note.
It's funny you should mention that, because that's what I think I'm going to start doing, because that sound delay was way too jarring for me, and it made it really, really hard to focus and to get into this.
100%. So that's how I do it. And I'll condense my notes afterwards if anything odd happens on commentary or the broadcast. But I did notice I agreed with pretty much all with what was being said by the commentators, which is weird for HBO because I always found them like super biased a lot of the time. And even I was agreeing with Letterman a lot as well. His scores throughout the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did up until this point. Compy box again, I really didn't agree with. In round 4 it said about round 3 that Tarver landed 1 of 9 power shots to Jones' 7 of 19. Look, Jones won the round, but I really don't see him only landing 1 single power shot that round.
Compy box is drunker than Larry Merchant sometimes.
Yeah. But this round turned out to be... Tarver sort of tried to come back and steal it, and this is one where, like you were saying, how you score the fights. I put an asterisk next to this one. If I've got a round where I think, I need to go back and check it, then I will do that. That's one thing we can do. Judges can't do. They need to have their scoring right after. But I came back and watched this a couple of times to see if I really stand by my decision. I came to the same conclusion every time, so happy with it.
Round 4's also... You kind of start to see his trademark Jones, those lead rights.
He loves spot shotting, eh?
Not like he does. Not like the Mayweather lead right where like it's a counter where he leans back. He just like throws these almost overhand looping kind of things.
Jumping hooks and stuff.
Yeah. And there's also some pretty cringe showboating from Tarver in this round as well.
Yeah, this was a round where he got really pissed off with him. He thought that a punch was a bit low.
Yeah.
And started basically... He sort of looked like he was talking to Jones in the ring for a little bit. Cracked the shits with him. I really think fighters should try to avoid that shit. He's taken away an opportunity to fucking do something meaningful. And then Tarver's corner did say in between rounds that he's just giving him way too much respect.
He's still angry. I got that on my notes for round 5. Tarver's coach is still angry.
Oh, this is where Jim brought up a just stupid point. This is where Jim starts to go off the rails for me. Jones landed 7 of 33 punches, but they were the 7 he wanted to land. Especially since he got shots, I'm pretty sure he'd be happy to land 33.
You want to land all the punches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a boxer throw a punch and go, I didn't want to land that. Damn it. That was the one I didn't want to land.
This is like a fixed twat.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of those in boxing.
Well.
Combat sports in general.
Yeah.
Pride FC.
I think this is as
should have
well
an
where...
episode on the Yakuza one time.
Maybe not.
Yeah, actually.
Let's
What are they going to do?
Dude, they cut their own pinkies off.
Yeah, true.
Shopper.
This was again another sort of quiet round.
So in this round, because it was quiet, I actually noticed the tassels on Jones's shoes, and they distracted the fuck out of me for the rest of this fight.
Maybe that was his game plan with Tarver.
Props to Tarver, because it didn't seem to work, but it had me hook, line, and sinker.
He's a flashy man. There's no doubt about it. He can't be moved. Can't be rocked. Yeah, you're right about the pot shotting, though. It's one of the things that I wrote, where it's kind of like lead right, body shot. He's not throwing much in the way of combos at all, really. Tarver's the one throwing the combos where the late round flag. Actually, this was the one of the rounds where he didn't do the I'm going to try and steal the round in the last 10 seconds bit.
Yeah.
And I thought I even heard a little bit of booing in this round. Yeah.
I think there was in a couple of rounds up till now. There's, I think round 4 I made the note. Crowd's getting a bit restless.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit earlier than that. It happened a few times through the fights. Look, I don't really see why everyone was so pissed off. I had a couple of quiet rounds, but it was all around a good fight.
Yeah. Okay, I think they wanted a spectacular Jones Jr. hands behind back, leaping left hook knockout. Round 6, Tarver started this round a bit quicker, which he seemed to have a problem with earlier, well, except for maybe the first 2 rounds. But he still, when Jones isn't on the ropes, Tarver looks a bit puzzled.
Yeah, there was always these moments where Tarver's throwing, and then he just sort of stops him. Huh?
Yeah, it's like he needs
Like
him
he- like
to be
he's-
still.
Yeah, like he's forgotten where he is.
Hold still.
Like he's eating a tin of soup and he's forgotten that the spoon's halfway up to his face. Probably could have said that more succinctly, but words.
This is another round. I know I just said it was a pretty good fight, but there wasn't a lot to it.
No.
My main note for this round says more of the same. Tarver does well on the ropes. Jones pot shots.
Yeah, he goes for the late flurry again, but
For me,
I
it
don't
was
know.
too late.
Yeah,
is that I don't think I hate that strategy. I don't think it's a viable strategy. I know it works with judges sometimes.
It's doable if you're like dominant for the last 30, 40 seconds of fight. That's significant enough, I think,
Yeah.
of a round. So
But even then, I think it's a shitty tactic.
yeah,
it smacks of desperation almost.
Yeah, it does, because it's like, there's recency bias in judges. They're going to like the last thing that they saw. So
yeah.
it just seems kind of cheap. But whatever.
So Tarver's corner going into round 7 said we're losing this title. Jones' corner said move to your left to target the bruise under his eye.
Yeah.
And then this was when I realised that the Matrix Revolutions were sponsoring this fight. So fuck, we're getting old.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
As far as it was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first Matrix was 99. The only good Matrix 2, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pending the new one, because I honestly haven't seen that yet.
Apparently it's trash.
I've heard horrible things about it.
I don't doubt that, though.
Yeah. So we're getting into round 7.
This is where I felt the need to note something that I don't think swayed judges in this fight, but I think we should note it down when it does happen. That Jones is getting the cheer every time he throws something in this round.
He's getting... Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that sort of shit, like, I'm sure it's fans trying to sway judges, but it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, well, it does, unfortunately, happen. This was the first round in a while where Tarver got off earlier. Like, he went for the flurry at the start of the round instead of the end.
Does it repeatedly through a round.
Yeah.
Gets in, like, I think it was 4 or 5 solid left, so...
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I was watching it and I was like, yeah, Jones looks sharper, like, everywhere. And then, literally, as soon as I wrote that, there's, like, this prolonged period of Tarver just punching shit out of Jones.
Yeah. And the commentators started saying
in a
Jones
row.
looked exhausted. Like, with the quality of the video, I couldn't really see any expression on his face to say he's exhausted. But
Yeah. Well, there's this prolonged period of dominance in this round by Tarver, and then he just takes his foot off the gas and just lets him survive.
yeah, he does defend reasonably well from there. And I think the only other really eye-catching thing Jones did for the rest of the round was one right hand,
Yeah.
which was a really good right, but one right compared to a whole heap of combinations and like 5, 6 straight lefts.
Yeah.
This is where I think that Letterman being pissed off with Tarver might have come into play because he gave that round to Jones.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
saying it was real clear for Jones. I really don't think so.
Getting into round 8. First thing that happens is there's a break for the tape on the gloves, which is probably good for Jones.
Ends up becoming a pretty big story later on.
Yeah, it happens again, doesn't it? I think it does. Big George points out Roy Jones Jr. looks exhausted. Probably, like, I'm imagining from the weight cut.
But the Tarver's letting him breathe.
Yeah, because, like, he does the same thing. He gets him on the ropes a little bit and lands, and then Jones gets off the ropes and just jabs away, and Tarver doesn't really
It
look like he
really
knows
is
what he's doing. It's fucking so weird, man.
becoming the overall theme of this fight.
Yeah, 100%.
There was one point where I started to realise that Tarver had been doing some better work that we probably couldn't see because of the quality of the video. That they said that Jones's eye was starting to swell shut from all the jabs. So he does have a great jab. We just hadn't been seeing the damage because the quality of the video isn't good enough.
Yeah, the video was pretty shit. Yeah,
Ben said if you are wanting to watch the fight, like it's clear enough for you to see what's happening. You're just not going to see like damage to people's faces and all that.
So round 9, Roy looks a little fresher. I thought at the start of this round, he starts to go back to the body. But I just keep noticing that Tarver's making this huge error. His tactics are awful in this fight.
They are.
Yeah. We missed another 30 seconds.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was a freeze. And there's another attempted steal of a round by Tarver, but I just didn't think it was enough.
No. And as Aiden said, he has the tools
Yeah,
to do better. He's just not.
He probably could have dominated the fight.
Absolutely.
You're,
He had size, he had everything. And
Has enough speed to deal with Jones's speed.
yeah. Big George is right, like, and he was the first one to point it out. Like, he was basically saying that Jones is fucked. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. In round 10, he does look tired.
we did get an, okay, Jim.
Okay, Jim.
I had to make a special note of that.
And there's a nice big left hook by Jones early, but then there's more of this kind of punishment along the ropes by Tarver. He once again takes his foot off the gas, and Jones starts to learn to get, like, it's so weird watching this, man.
Thank the gods he's not on the highway because he keeps taking his foot off the fucking gas.
There was a point where he did do better in this round. Like, he had that bit sort of spamming the left. When Jones started coming back after a little while, he did at least try to brawl with him again.
Yeah.
But he didn't totally let it go.
He did try the late flurry again. Might have been more successful this time in the context of the round, but I don't know.
Because he had some work in there earlier.
Yeah.
But, his corner's been saying it to him every round, like before round 9, you got to keep up this intensity and you've got it. For round 11, no backward steps. Like, they just keep saying it to him and he keeps ignoring him, basically. Should have been an easy win for him.
Yeah. Even on the tape, that was shitty, and at this point you can start to see that Jones' eye looks...
Yeah, you
Pretty
can start to
busted
see
up.
some damage on it, some puffiness.
Yeah. But then at the start of the round, Tarver's just not doing much, and then Jones is just landing the better shots. He's like the counters to the body, some of the combinations he's throwing, and Tarver's...
Was this round 11 we're going into, or we're still round 10?
Yeah, 11. And Tarver's starting to cover up a bit in this round as well. Like,
I
This is
did
probably
notice,
the most entertaining round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I did notice that Jones pepped himself up a bit for this one.
Yeah.
He had been starting to get exhausted. I mean, by round 11, you bloody well would be.
yeah.
So I wrote for this Jones active and underlined active.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is where I think Larry was proved right, that he did all that, so he punched himself out. But I have a big point I want to talk about here, and that's Jim Lampley. Like, so Jones was throwing shitloads of combinations, punched himself out. Tarver turns it around, starts throwing heaps of combinations, and then Lampley says that Tarver looks like he's punched himself out. Tape comes loose on Tarver's glove as he's mid-combination. Got Jones against the ropes. Jim Lampley says, "What a lucky break for Tarver." Big George goes, "No, what a lucky break for Jones."
Yeah.
And Jim goes, "What, because?"
If Jones
Fucking
he finishes that round nicely, which was kind of the only round that he's done that in.
He was tired going into that little break when he was
yeah.
getting hit with the combinations. That bit of tape coming off Tarver's glove might have saved him a bit there.
Yeah.
I think it definitely saved him that round.
Must have had a bit of Red Bull in the corner.
Yeah.
The CompuBox numbers for that round seemed pretty low, I thought.
I didn't catch him, I think.
I didn't write them down. It's just like I said, that round was pretty action-packed
Yeah.
for this fight, and the numbers were pretty low.
Probably the most action-packed of the fight for both of them, really. So Tarver's corner said going into the 12th, we absolutely need this round. And then he didn't really go out like he needed that round.
Yeah.
No.
That's alright, like Jones getting off quicker. He still looks tired, like he's on the ropes. But every time Tarver tries to kind of get off on him.
But it's almost like in this round it felt like Jones was willing to walk back to the ropes knowing that Tarver couldn't capitalise.
Yeah.
And that's what kept happening. He kept letting himself back up, resting on the ropes. Tarver punching himself out.
It was disappointing because there was a bit after about a minute of this round where Tarver landed probably his best shots of the fight.
Yeah.
And then he did that and then just left it.
And then just left it.
Yeah. And then, it's just this story, like he's just not doing enough.
I feel like we've talked more about what Tarver didn't do through this fight and what Jones didn't do. I think what Jones didn't do was most rounds he didn't throw combinations.
No,
he only really did in the 11th.
He was pot shooting, and
It was enough for him for most rounds.
yeah, but it's not typical Roy Jones fight. of this kind of time period at all.
I think that cut down from heavyweight definitely affected him a lot more than he was anticipating.
Yeah.
He should have just fought Tyson.
Yeah.
So, what are the official scorecards?
Right. Wait on, so Glenn Hamada had it 117, 111 for Roy Jones Jr. I'll go back and talk about that one in a bit. David Harris had it 116, 112 again for Jones. Jerry Roth had it 114, 114. I think 117, 111 is quite steep.
Yeah.
Look, it's. I think that was the same as what Letterman had, which I disagreed with. He basically switched off and decided he's going to give every round to Jones for a point. I think he usually just, whoever's winning, whoever won like round 3 or 4, Letterman will just stick with him for until the championship rounds.
How did you have it?
I had it 114, 114.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the round I wasn't sure about and I kept going back and watching was round 4. But I stand by my decision on that one and we can talk about it more if you want to. But
Which way did you go?
Tarver for that round.
Okay. I had 116, 113 Jones.
Yeah.
I had 115, 112 Jones.
Right.
So,
But we've literally upheld the exact decision. We've got a majority decision, majority decision.
So post. I did not think that was too controversial at all.
Yeah, I really don't think it was.
Yeah.
This was a weird one. It was a fun fight, but it was very disappointing to see Tarver just not seize the opportunities that he had.
100%. Tarver's strategy was piss poor.
Yeah, it was.
Fight. Like
And this was a Roy Jones Jr. who was struggling.
Yeah, he could have finished him, I thought.
Yeah.
And
he did next fight.
he did next fight. That's what, yeah, it's like shout out to Big George because he was like on the ball with his observations. Like he noticed before anyone how wrecked Jones was.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's a ballsy effort by Jones, eh? Like
Yeah.
he's wrecked.
8 months after a heavyweight fight.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised with like Larry Merchant. Like his commentary was pretty on point as well. Like
Yeah.
he was pointing out like how vulnerable Jones is, and he was. But
Jim was probably at his worst at this fight, I reckon.
Yeah.
Especially that bit where he saw it literally the opposite to what was happening.
yeah,
Like,
He's living in his own reality, man.
I think one of the most important things here is like what comes after for both guys. So they fight again, not too long after. Like the famous, do you have any excuses tonight, Roy? But Roy didn't have an excuse this night. Like he did, like, but still.
the real excuse is like he deserved to win more than Tarver did.
Yeah,
Like even though I had it even, there was that round that I was thinking like it's bloody close.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and watch it a bunch of times to justify to myself why I gave that round to Tarver. Which, not saying that I've like intentionally made a bad decision, it was just close enough that I'm going,
yeah.
should I have scored that even? If I'd scored that even, then I would have had Jones winning by a round.
So what comes next after this? Next, they have a rematch a couple of months later. Tarver knocks out Roy Jones in the second round. And, well, I'd say not even after that fight. After this fight, Jones is never the same again.
Yeah.
After this, like I said, he loses to Tarver. Then he gets knocked out by Glenn Johnson, who was... I don't know if it's fair to call him a journeyman, because he did win a world title. But he's basically a journeyman. And after that, Jones never won another high-level fight again. His biggest win after this is probably Felix Trinidad, who's coming out of a long retirement and is a welterweight. So he never reaches... It's kind of like that. What makes this significant is we never saw this with like Floyd and Manny, like the greats of their time. Like, well, Floyd just never lost, but even when Manny lost, it wasn't like he's lost and now he's not the same. Like you can,
Yeah.
Jones could just never compete at the high level after this. I don't know why.
I have a bit of a theory about why. I think it's because his style is so focused on speed. Like, he's got to be quick to win.
100%. Like it sounds like a strange thing to say, but he's not a great conventional boxer. Eh?
No.
Like he relies 100% on athleticism, speed, power.
Like Nassim Hamed.
Yeah, he's the opposite of a Bernard Hopkins, who's like doesn't necessarily have any of those things, but is like so fundamentally sound. Yeah. Once those gifts go, they're gone for good. And it doesn't help that the chin, once that chin gets cracked as well.
Like they say, like the last thing to go is power, but the first thing to go is speed.
Yeah.
Like majority of what he was winning fights on was speed.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So what, Jones managed to hang around for a while, like way longer than he should have. I think he retired like 66-8 or something like that.
He had 9 losses. I can't remember how many wins.
Yeah, so I think it's in the high 60s. Like, but he never again beat anyone of real significance. Had some bad losses, like he done fly him out to Australia when he's in his 40s and get splattered by Danny Green.
Probably Danny Green when he was just coming off of his best.
Yeah. Done the same thing with that Dennis, what's his name? Lebedev? Yeah.
Costazu's protege.
Yeah.
So he's probably not a big fan of Australians.
But Tarver's post-career this wasn't that great either. Like, he never reached the heights that he should have, I don't think.
I think it's more because he wasn't active. Like, he came back and, like, obviously Danny Green wasn't fantastic, but he was a world champion in a minor organisation. Did have talent, and Tarver made him look like he was just nothing. Like,
I think it's also...
This was after a long layoff.
I think it's partly because he just seemed to peak so late, and then hence his peak didn't last very long. Like, I think after this, he knocks out Jones after this. I think he goes 1-1 with Glenn Johnson, and then he beats Jones in the rubber match, which is not very competitive, but it does go the distance. And then I think he loses to Bernard Hopkins after that, and then
end up having some losses to Chad Dawson.
Chad Dawson, and then he kind of just becomes like an inactive marquee name fighter. And
he did have that spectacular run as heavyweight champion until Rocky Balboa.
He did come out to it. He done like the legend tour of Australia as well, which was when he did actually beat the shit out of Danny Green.
Flogged him.
Yeah, there was that one round, that Green one, and then Tarver beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a tangent, but like, I've always hated that. Like, Green and Mundine both used to do it as well. Like, fly out these washed up Americans and beat them up and then make a song and dance. So, like, Mundine done it to Mosley, Green done it to Jones.
This was Mosley, like, going into the fight properly injured.
Yeah.
At like near 50 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, I didn't think that was the greatest fight that we've watched so far.
But I don't think it's like...
It's not bad.
It wasn't a bad fight.
Yeah. But I think it's like the most historically significant fight we've watched because it is essentially the end of Roy Jones as an elite level fighter. And he never ever recovered.
Actually, that was one of the points I wanted to make about him earlier when we were talking about how great he was. He started his career at super welterweight.
Yeah, I know.
How ridiculous is it to go from that and beat a heavyweight?
Yeah.
Unreal.
It was John Ruiz, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Universally regarded as like one of the worst heavyweight champions of all time. But still, he's still done it. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's really all we got on this one. Not going to have arguments for, 2 hours or whatever we did for Golovkin versus Canelo. We're only at 42 minutes before the editing.
In our defense, we are relatively sober at the moment, so...
Yeah. We should at least have 4 beers prior. Right.
4 bottles of whiskey.
Yeah, so good fight. Decision was fine to me.
Yeah, I don't see this as controversial at all.
I think this is one of those ones that gets like overplayed because when there's a dominant fight over the air, people want to see him lose. So anytime there's a somewhat close fight, people are like, "Oh, he lost it."
Those happens. Like same as why initially when I was watching Mayweather, I hated him because he was undefeated at the time.
Yeah,
it took me a long time to actually start appreciating what he was doing.
Yeah.
Do we even think that 117, 111's too wide a card? Like,
I could see it, but
I can see
it's
it.
generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, won't even bother calling any of them.
I had
bad cards.
I had a couple for Tarver later in the fight, where I thought that he did do enough. But overall, it was a case of too little, too late at the end of the round, and you were presented with so many opportunities.
He should have finished him, but it's coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
What it comes down to for me is there's a period between I think round 3 and round 7. But Tarver essentially does fucking nothing.
He does nothing, and Jones just walks all over him. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's probably our least eventful episode so far because we're all sober.
Yeah.
Not only that, it was a really uneventful. It was the same thing almost every round.
Yeah.
Jones pot shots. Tarver backs him up on the ropes. Tarver can't do anything when he's back up on the ropes, or won't do anything.
Well, our next fight should be a bit more eventful and some strong opinions. I believe we are doing...
Griffin.
Yeah. Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner, the first fight. The legendary fight.
Some say the fight that saved the UFC.
Probably was, and
Almost.
we had some points we want to talk about with that, but leave it for next episode, I think.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, do your usual, like, share, subscribe, whatever.
Shekels. Peace.
Peace.